Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our summer webinar series. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm one of the program directors here at NACME. I'm responsible for professional development and events. And I thank all of our NACME corporate scholars, as well as our new sites on board. I haven't had a chance to meet some of our Google Camp members and participants, so I'm excited to have you on board for our second session. This is a repeat session of our overall topics. So again, welcome on NACME. This is part of our CASE Academy. CASE Academy, in short, is our intent to do both physical and virtual professional development workshops to help continue developing our NACME scholars and corporate scholars as they prepare to go to corporate America. And this series is a part of the training session that was developed in order to support our corporate scholars as well as our Google scholars and any NACME scholar that would like to participate. Today, we have a phenomenal panel to kind of kick off the vanguard of our group. Our first panel, since a lot of our students are new going into corporate America, we really wanted to kick off the summer to discuss the topic of the difference and the various things about dealing in corporate culture. So we have some of our wonderful board of trustee members who have sponsored our workshops, and I'm pleased to have both ExxonMobil and IBM who are sponsoring this presentation. And I'm going to give us some of our professionals, seasoned members, as well as some of our current interns to just discuss the different topics with you. So on that note, allow me to introduce our moderator for this session, another NACME alum. So Isha Powers, I will allow you to introduce yourself on the panel, and thank you very much. Oh, I guess I better take care of the housekeeping rules right quick. Excuse me. One quick, number one, I want to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded, and because we are recording the meeting, we're going to make sure that it's going to be posted up on the NACME TV or YouTube probably by the end of the summer. And we'll make sure we do some editing. Number two, we want to encourage all participants, if you can, please show yourself. Turn on your video monitors, your cameras. You'll have the ability to mute and unmute as well. That's our third point. So if you're not speaking, feel free to keep yourself on mute. But if you'd like to ask a question to our panelists, you'll have the ability to unmute, or you can also perhaps put a comment in the chat box, and that will help our moderator and myself kind of facilitate your questions. And last but not least, at the end of the webinar, if not today, definitely on Monday, you'll receive an email asking you to complete our survey, our post-webinar survey, to give us feedback so we can continue doing improvements and to come up with topics that are of interest and of need to our scholars. On that note, Isha, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Isha Shireen Powers. I am the chief architect of the IBMZ crypto portfolio. And what that really means is I'm just a super duper crypto nerd. I love all things crypto and security. You can kind of see it from my picture there. I'm at one of the IBM conferences, and we had this whole game around pervasive encryption and trying to encrypt all of your data before your auditors get there and do a review. So those are the kind of things I like to do. I have been at IBM for about 17 years now. I am a software developer, so that's my primary role. I do the architecture, design, development, working with function test teams. I have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from UIUC, so hopefully there's some other UIUC people out there. And I have my Master's in Information Technology from RPI, and maybe we got a few RPI people out there. And what I do is I do a lot of engaging with clients and people to help them understand crypto, help them to deploy it and implement it in their environments, pretty much around the world. So I've been to Australia and France and Germany and all places. So I have had a really great career. One of the things I'm very proud of is that I'm also a NACME scholar. When I went to school at the University of Illinois, I have financial aid, of course, but it doesn't cover everything, right? And so I was really, really grateful to NACME for providing financial support for me to get through, those years and years in school. By the time I had got out of school, I think I had very few loans, and that's only because I had taken like a summer course. So I'm really grateful to NACME, and so I'm really happy to be here. And I hope you guys have fun today. I hope you guys will interact with us and talk to us. It's more fun when you guys engage, and we're not scary, so don't worry about that either. And none of us are shy, so please jump in there and ask questions. But let me go ahead and introduce some of the amazing people on the panel. And we're gonna start with our interns. And so first, let's start with Kamala. Kamala, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kamala. And I just finished my first year in a PhD program at the University of Maryland in College Park. And my major is computer science, but I'm focused on machine learning right now. And I got my BA at Vanderbilt University. I majored in math and computer science and minored in film. And this is my third summer interning with IBM Research. I started the summer after my junior year in undergrad. So I got to be both an undergraduate intern and a graduate intern. And at IBM, I'm on a team called AI Security and Privacy Solutions, but I specifically look at defenses against adversarial attacks. And I also mentioned in this bio that I like studying art in computer science in conjunction. So that's just another fun fact. I've also had experience researching in virtual reality, which is kind of art related too. And I look forward to answering your questions.
Awesome, thank you so much. So let me go ahead and let's introduce our next intern, Nurla. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Nurla Lewis. I just finished my second year of PhD at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, studying computer science. So I got my bachelor's from Cornell University, and I did computer science and biological engineering, but now I'm just doing pure computer science. And then after I graduated, I worked at IBM for 2 years as a software developer. And then now, after those 2 years, I actually went back and I'm pursuing my PhD now. And my research interests are in security and distributed systems. Yeah.
Oh, 21.
The 21.
Yeah.
There might be somebody who probably needs to put them on mute. There we go. That was a funny segue into the next session. At least it was perfectly between the two speakers. So that worked out. So let me go ahead and then we're going to introduce our next panelist, and that's going to be Dr. Alan Bevans. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Yep, Alan Bivens. I've been at IBM now for 18 years. I started in IBM Research. Got a chance to work on a lot of different great technologies and a lot of great people. But eventually I decided to try something new, like you can do in big companies, and join a couple of our business units. So I now lead data services. I'm the director over that area. So I have a product suite that I run, which involves our cloud native databases, our cloud native object storage, and event-driven frameworks. So I went from being a research person to now I'm a business owner with a revenue target. So lots of different experiences, loving each part of the learning along the way.
Awesome, that's great to hear. Okay, and last but not least, Dr. Sean Simmons, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. I was having some technical difficulties, so apologies if it comes in and out. So I'm Sean Simmons. I am the Environmental and Regulatory Manager for the Sakhalin Business Unit, which is located in Russia for ExxonMobil. I've been with the company 21 years and had the opportunity to have 6 summer internships with the company, various roles. I got my undergrad in petroleum engineering from the University of Oklahoma, a master's in environmental engineering from Rice University, and my PhD in environmental toxicology from Texas Southern University. Had the opportunity to lead teams, global teams from Africa, Australia, Asia Pacific, and Europe, and really excited to be part of the panel today to give you guys some tips and some experiences of what I wish I had known, what I wish somebody would have told me, and all those lessons learned. So glad to be here today, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome, it's great to have you. So, These are all of our wonderful panelists for today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing because we want to be able to see people's faces. So if you guys are not on video already, we highly recommend and suggest that you guys turn on your video so we can see your faces and so we can hear questions from you. So let's see. I think I saw a few videos. How cool. See a few. So Jose, thank you, and Kevin. Jaden, it's great to see you guys' faces. Angelica, I see you there, perfect smile, love it. I see a few other faces. Oh, I love the pictures too, for those who don't have the video up, so these are great. Omari, thanks for showing video. Oh wow, that's a huge classroom there, Corey, so that looks great. Awesome. So thanks to everyone for joining. And kind of what we want to do now is we want to kind of leave it for you guys to first give you guys the opportunity to ask us questions. So you have this panelist where we have a couple of people who are interns in different areas. You have a couple of people who have been, in corporate for many years, and you can kind of have these two different views of the world. And what we're looking at today is kind of exploring corporate culture. So let me see if anybody has a hand raised, and perhaps what we can do is we can get a question from you. And if you guys don't have a question, we have a few that I can throw out to the audience as well. But I'll give a second for any hand raises. And I think that my view here, at least from what I'm seeing, is it's kind of like me spotlighted in the center. I don't know if we kind of want to see like each person's. Not that I don't think they're cute maybe for now, but it would be kind of cool to see everybody else's view. So let me see if I can change that mode.
Try to set gallery.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I switched from the view to the gallery view. There we go. I'm back again. Perfect. Okay, so now I can see everybody. So thank you so much. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and, oh, I see a physical hand raised by Sam. I don't know if that meant he had a question.
Oh, no, I don't have a question. We're just trying to work out technical difficulties here. So I was making a gesture.
That works too. So let me go ahead and I'll start with asking the first question. So all of you guys have kind of worked at various amounts of time in corporate. So some as interns and some have been there longer. What has been the most fun for you in your role? And for this question, I think what I'll do is I'll start with those people who have been in corporate for a very, very, very long time. You guys probably have lots of great stories to share. So Sean, can you tell us a little about like what has been the most fun experience that you've had in your career?
Oh boy. I would say the highlight of my career so far has been my expat assignment. So I was sent to Africa and lived there with my family for 5 years in Lagos, Nigeria. And it was really a game changer for me. And I will tell you that I hesitated at first because I had a lot of people saying why I shouldn't go. And, and my mom was like, don't take those grandkids away from me. But, it really was a highlight. It challenged my understanding. It challenged me to have a more global perspective, and to really appreciate diversity and different cultures and different ways of looking at things. And I really grew in that role. It really pushed me. So yeah, I would say definitely my expat assignment, 5 years. I probably would have stayed longer if they let me. But just to enjoy the culture and to enjoy all the opportunities for travel and to enjoy just a whole lot of challenging assignments while I was overseas. And then I brought those same learnings back to the States with me in terms of, how you deal with and how you work with people who are very different from you and have very different perspectives and very different objectives. And, bringing all those together to realize success, I think was really a highlight. So, yeah.
And that's great for you to mention. I will say one of the highlights that I've had too in my career at IBM is just being able to travel the world. I was the girl who was afraid of airplanes for the longest time. And I have traveled probably to, oh my gosh, it was one year I was traveling probably twice a month to all different areas of the US and abroad. And I got to go to Australia and see kangaroos and all kinds of things, speaking there and presenting and working with clients. So that's awesome. So I'm glad I'm not the only person that gets to travel the world, which is a really wonderful experience with corporate America. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and jump to one of our interns. So Nurla, you're kind of quiet over there. Can you tell us what has been the most fun experience for you as an intern?
I think like something that's really fun is usually at the end of your internship, like you get to do like poster presentation. And then there's a lot of other, I think all the other interns are there and everybody has a poster and you can like walk around and like talk to them about their summer projects. And then also like a bunch of like people come to your poster and you get to talk to them and they're like, you know, high level people who are kind of like paying attention to you. So I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome too. Especially it's a great skill to have too, being able to present in front of like an audience, even if it's like small groups of an audience in the poster session. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go over to Kamala. So what about you, your intern experience, most fun?
I think my favorite part about interning in the corporate world is that it's so social compared to non-corporate research internships I've had. And especially as someone who's not very social, who's very introverted, it's almost hard not to be social, at least at IBM, because for one, there's people all around you. Two, there's so many events, there's so many tea times is what we call them, where every week or every so often, depending on what team you're on, you just have tea, have other snacks and talk to people. And you also eat lunch with other people. My team eats lunch together, so you don't have to try and figure out where you're sitting. And then after lunch, we'd walk around the building. And it's really cool. The Almaden location is on this big hill, kind of in the middle of nowhere, so the view's great. And I always look forward to those moments. So it's a nice balance between work and social.
That's awesome. And I think I've been to Almaden at least probably once or twice. And it is a really nice view because it's like you're high up and there's kind of nothing around you. I won't say but like forest, but it's just like land, lots and lots of land. Awesome.
I have a question. So I'm Angelica Buffalo. I'm a rising junior at the University of Michigan, majoring in mechanical engineering. I know someone mentioned that they had 6 internships with IBM. I don't recall who it was, but whoever that was, can they say that again?
Well, I mentioned I had 6 internships, but it was with ExxonMobil. So I don't know if you're interested in.
Oh, okay. All right, maybe I misheard. But I would still like to ask you a question. So, since you have so much experience with your internship and you also have experience in the corporate world, what would you say carry over from your internship into the corporate world? Like, what do you think the internships helped you with when you transition?
Yeah, good question. And thank you for your question. First of all, I think, having the opportunity to have 6 very different internships allowed me to figure out what I liked and probably more importantly, what I didn't like. So that I think was something I definitely took over into, full-time positioning, understanding, what job offers or what groups that I would really prefer. I also took a lot of, the relationships and networking. We had some earlier conversations before you all got on the call, and I kept emphasizing, don't underestimate the power of the network in terms of, what you may want to do, different groups you may want to explore. And when you meet people in different groups, that's your opportunity to make those connections, to ask those questions, to get positioned, to find out, what things will make you better. And I also mentioned, feedback is a gift that people give you. And, self-reflection is a gift you give yourself. And so each of those internships, I took the feedback on what I could do better or differently. And I did a lot of self-reflection about, what really resonated with me, what my learning style was, what my leadership style was. And so all those things I took forward into what I was doing, full time, and really just develop those skills that I knew that I was lacking in, and really flourished and, held my hand up on things that I knew that I did very well in terms of those skill sets. So that's what I learned. That's what I kept and moving forward. But I know Alan has a really great story to add to, what he learned from his internship days.
Uh-oh, I've gotten a reputation for stories. Yeah, I would say, yeah, first, I agree with everything you said. The biggest thing I took forward from my internship years, I had 4 internships with IBM. The biggest thing I took forward was the network, the connections that I made. I mean, I had so many internships there that people knew me well. So when I started full time, those were already connections that I had. And when I started full time, I started in a different group. It wasn't the same group I interned with, but I had very tight connections across the board. So it really helped me do my full-time job by having relationships with the folks that I worked with as an intern. The other thing that happened was it wasn't just the interactions through work that I developed that network. When I was an intern, I joined the softball league. And some of the folks that were on my softball team when I was an intern, I had to work with those guys when I came back, right? And there was already a relationship. So it was easy for me to just jump right in, ask them for stuff that other group members would ask them for and get ignored. And they were like, oh, Alan, yeah, I remember Alan, man. He was our third baseman, right? How you doing? Yeah, we can definitely make this happen. So, don't just think, don't restrict yourself to just the work activity, as it were. Look to develop those relationships in all facets of your internship, right? The extracurricular pieces, your peers, a lot of the peers that I had, fellow interns, went on to do great things, and I stay connected with them, right? No matter what company they're in. So, and we can help each other.
Alan, what position did you play, and were you any good?
I was third base and shortstop. Had to make the longest throw to first and still get people out.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
why they did things for you, because you were a good shortstop. That's the reason why.
I did. So while we're on stories, I did have a director that I played against, and he ended up being my director at one point. And he said, when I was that bad, he said, Bivens, think about your career. It's just a sign of a good relationship.
That's awesome.
That was very helpful. So thank you so much.
Very good. Great question. So let's see, are there any other questions? And I have to try to move my screen around so I can see if you guys are raising your hand. Now we have like 2 displays, so I have to kind of jump.
I can ask a question.
Oh, yes, please.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm from UCF in Central Florida. This question is more for the interns. Since you guys are so fresh, I'm guessing you guys are interning maybe remote now, but you guys also have some experience interning in person. What's some advice that you guys can give us scholars that are interning now to make more relations and make the internship experience more, I guess, closer to what it would be if we were in person?
My advice for you is to take initiative. My manager has been talking about that a lot lately. And I think as an intern, you might have this mindset that you're there to work for someone else and they'll kind of take the lead, and you're, I don't know, you don't have as much authority as you actually may have. For example, my manager has been trying to get me to offer my own ideas. They'll guide me with some ideas, but if you ever have a chance to, if you ever think of any ideas, if you ever think of any tasks you want to help with or you want to start, then don't be afraid to bring those up. And worst case scenario, they say no, but I think they'll at least like that you're trying to step up more. And maybe they'll start giving you more authority too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Some other ideas you could do is like, I know my manager, like we have like social sessions with just our group members regularly, where you like just don't really talk about work, just kind of like hang out. So you could ask your manager to do that if you have a group. You could also reach out to other interns specifically. I know like other people have like DM'd me on Slack and just been like, oh, can we just have a WebEx session? And that's always really great. So yeah, just reach out to people, or like if there's no events, just try to plan them yourself, essentially. And because I think other people are in the same boat, definitely they want to meet people more, so they'll probably be willing to hear you out.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And I just offer as a seasoned
Yeah, of
person
course.
as well. I know you said interns, but I would also say, I know this virtual environment is not, ideal, but don't underestimate the power of the reverse mentorship relationship, because you guys know so much more about technology and how to use things and be more efficient. So even in this virtual environment, I know that my interns have taught me how to, utilize Zoom and Meets and get the full benefit and the full functionality out of it just by taking the time to, to mentor me. And so don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, on that call, I saw that you guys were struggling with the poll question, or, hey, did you know that, one way to solicit response and feedback is through the poll. Can I show you how to do it? That will speak volumes, one, to your taking initiative, but also just speaks to your skill set, especially to these seasoned people. We need all the help we can get. Like, we need all the help we can get. So I just offer that.
Seasoned people, that's what Sean told me I'm supposed to use, the term seasoned people. Yeah, she's 100% right. Number one, be communicative, right? I mean, you gotta, since you don't see each other at the water cooler in the lunchroom, you'll need to exert extra energy to make sure you're communicating with your peers, with your manager, with everyone. But the other thing is, there are some disadvantages to being remote, but there's some advantages too, right? If you consider, for example, IBM is a global organization. If you're an intern that is working in one site, traditionally you only interact with the people at that site, but now, you can interact with anybody across the entire world just as easily as just walking down the office. And so, leverage that. Consider everybody that is working in that company as accessible, and reach out to them, right? You'll be able to get time. You don't have to travel. So it's an asset too.
Yeah, I'll share something that my team has done kind of in this pandemic, because our team is pretty close knit. And so what they did is they have like a Slack channel for our team. And on Thursdays, they have like Thursday Fun Day, and they'll post like a phrase. And then you have to put on there like a YouTube video of like a song that fits that phrase. Or maybe they'll post like a brain teaser and people have to solve the brain teaser. And it's kind of a way of getting to know like who people are on the team, and just kind of having that, a little bit of fun at work. So that's something my team has done in the pandemic, just to stay a little bit social, because you can't necessarily see people in person, but it gives you a chance to get to know people, which is really important. You still want to feel like connected, even if you're not there like in person. And I'm a person who's actually been working remote for the last 5 years, 6 years now, since 2015. And so I'm used to being kind of away from like where my team is. Usually the conferences and travel gets me closer to them, but it's nice sometimes just to have the online interaction with Slack, or do virtual coffee chats. I schedule a 15-minute, 20-minute virtual coffee chat with people just to have that time. So those are cool. So all kinds of tools that you can use just to stay connected and feel like you're part of the group.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Any more questions? These are great. I'm so glad you guys are asking questions. It's always more fun when you guys ask questions, because we don't know like what kind of things, challenges you guys might have, or things that you would need from us. So Any additional questions so far?
Hello. So my name is Omari Jones. I'm now a senior at Tuskegee University. So I had two questions, one for the interns and one for the seasoned seasoned employees. So for the interns, whenever you're you're not doing your project, maybe you're waiting on a meeting or something, and you kind of like connected to the people in your department or whatnot, what do you do with that downtime? Like, how do you make use so you're not just sitting there kind of like doing nothing for the duration, whether it's like a day or just a couple hours? And then for the more seasoned people, your career path. So how did you go from being just, I just came in as a full-time to where you are now? And like, were there any challenges with trying to mapping your way to your current position or things of that nature?
So where do we want to start here? Let's see, Alan, how about you?
Yeah, happy to start. So on the career path question, so my current job is the offering manager for that set of offerings that I mentioned at the beginning. But my path to get there is not the typical offering manager path. Like I mentioned, I started off as a researcher, a hardcore researcher, and then I became a businessman. So I think the way I would track that path is once I really started feeling around to figure out, what got me excited about work? What problems did I enjoy trying to tackle? Right. And just gravitate more to those problems. Right. I became a manager because I enjoyed trying to clear the path so that others can have impact as well. And I quickly found out that, I could have a bigger impact if I involved more people. Right. And as I did that, my influence started to grow, both as a manager and people that I needed to influence that weren't managers. Right. And eventually, somewhere along the way, coming from a research background where I modeled complex systems for a living, I started modeling the business that I was in and the organization I was in as a complex system. And it's full of people that you can't control that represent random variables. And so now, where I used to model these complex systems, I sit back and I have to build a product in an environment that I can't control, with people and organizations that I can't really control, to compete against competitors that half the time I can't see, right? To convince clients that I also can't control to buy it. And I have to do all of that in a cost envelope that I can be profitable, right? So it's the same kind of multivariate optimization problem I used to solve as a researcher, right? Applied to the business world, right? With having a different type of an impact. So I gravitated to where I am now, right? Because I enjoyed those types of problems. But along the way, I had to get mentors, I had to get sponsors, people that could show me the way, people that could help me when I got into a new environment and I didn't know anything about the environment, and I'm the person that knows the least in the room. Sometimes I'm the boss and I know the least in the room. Lots of times I'm the boss and know the least in the room, right? And how do you deal with that to still get the most out of that team? So that's like a real quick way, but to kind of take some nuggets from that, I think one is, don't be afraid of change and following where your interests lie, because that's when magic really happens in whatever company you're in, right? When you can align your interests to the business impact that needs to happen with the company. And number two, don't be afraid to go to people to get help, right? Both career help, technical help, business help, whatever it is. Don't think that any of this is stuff you're doing alone. Otherwise, you'll be limited to the 24 hours a day that you have and the limited knowledge that you have.
Great, thank you so much, Alan. So let's get the intern perspective. Nurla or Kamala, did either one of you want to answer? Oh, we almost heard you, Nurla. I think I lost you. Or did she accidentally? Did we lose her completely? If not, we can see if Kamala wants to answer.
Okay. So regarding your asking what to do with downtime, my short answer would be just try and learn more. But more specifically, it's the cool thing about the companies you're probably working with is that they have a lot of resources that they can give you to help you learn. So for example, with IBM, we have something called Your Learning, and you complete all these modules, you learn about things that are relevant or things that aren't directly relevant. I learn about blockchain and quantum computing, and I get badges for it. And I think you get perks from getting badges or completing a certain number of hours, something like that. At least a badge is nice to have. And we also have, I don't know, I might need to be corrected on this, but access to maybe Coursera or something through IBM. So definitely try and learn and see if there's some resources out there that you can utilize.
Awesome, thank you. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you guys.
Awesome. So the next, we've got a question from the audience there in the chat. How to prepare for a technical interview. So Kamala, we'll stay on you for this because I'm sure this is probably more recent. So how do you prepare for a technical interview? We'll get your perspective and then we'll get from the corporate side when they're the ones doing the interviews, what they think.
I have to be honest, I've never had a technical interview before. I think I just got lucky, but I don't have any advice. I'm sorry.
And that's perfectly okay. And maybe what we'll do is I don't see Norla. I don't think she's back yet. So we'll go kind of on the management side of things. Sean, do you want to share? Like, have you done technical interviews? What would you have to share?
Yeah, well, I've done a couple of technical interviews in a sense of just kind of the recruiting side of it and setting them up, and I've sat in on them, but I didn't personally. I wasn't hiring someone who needed to go through a technical type of an interview. But what I will say in my observation is typically when you're brought in for a technical type of interview, they want to know something specific about your research because there's an interest in what you're doing, specifically an application to what the company is doing or hiring you for. So of course, be prepared to talk about your research. But what I also caution people is don't assume that people know what your research is. Like don't take them through the dissertation, take them through the community friendly summary of your work, right? Like layman's terms, like tell them what that is, because even as smart as they are, they don't know what you know. And so if you start getting too specific, then you'll lose them because they don't know what you're talking about. So practice your elevator speech, so to speak, that anybody who doesn't know anything about your research could understand. I mean, that's what you want, because you're trying to communicate something that they don't know anything about. They may know a little bit, but keep it high level. And what they really are looking, at least in my experience, what they really are looking for is the person that I'm talking to, are they capable of do they have the skills that a technical person would need, right? Can they figure out and help define the problem? Can they identify what the uncertainties are? Can they put together their plan in terms of the milestones? Can they stick to a budget? All these, it's really all those things that go along with the technical pieces that really people are looking for, because we want you to be able to do more than just your specific pigeonholed research. We want you to be able to have the skill set to do whatever it takes in terms of bringing new technologies forward. So that's what I would do. And then, a lot of times these companies already have out, the questions that they ask anyway. So, I mean, you can Google, what technical questions can I prepare for? But I would definitely tell you, don't talk about your research as if they were in the lab with you. Don't do it. I don't care how smart they are. They are not going to follow it. And you are going to lose them. And people, hire and work with people that they can envision themselves working with. And if you leave them behind, they don't want to work with you. So you're not going to get that job. So be relevant, be relatable, and be real. That's how you really successfully prepare for a technical interview.
Can I add a couple to that, if you don't mind? That's good stuff. Take all of that to heart. I would say know who you're interviewing with. Like, get a good understanding of what that organization is looking for and their interview style, right? If you are doing like a faculty interview or a PhD researcher interview, then there's actually an expected format there, right? And in the beginning, Sean is absolutely right. In the beginning, 100 people, 100% of the people need to understand what you're talking about, right? For like the 15% of your talk. But then in the next part of your talk, then you need to get to where only 50% of the people understand. And then, at the very last part of your talk, you need to show that you're the person that knows the most about this area in the room, and then only like 15% of the people understand it. That's if you're given one of these academic research type interviews, right? But if you're interviewing for like a programmer job or software engineer job at a major institution, actually what they're looking for is a little bit different. They want to know that you have depth in an area, right? But they want to know that you can think about a lot of areas, because chances are, no matter what you're hired to do in your first project, it's going to change over the next couple of years, right? So they want to test your ability to think, right? In fact, in those interviews, they'll ask you questions that are open-ended that you can't really answer without asking them more questions to get specifics. And that's part of the interview, right? So the best tip I can give you for those types of interviews is to be very communicative, right? You need to be talking about your thought process. You need to be asking them questions to make sure that you're on the same page of what they're asking. You need to be asking clarifying questions. They're actually looking for that, right? They know they lobbed up a useless question, right? And they're trying to see if you know that they lobbed us a useless question and that you need more information. They know it's part of the interview, right? So communicative, be confident enough to ask those questions. Are you talking about this type of workload or that type of workload? Because the answer might be different based on that. And that shows mastery of the area.
That's great advice. And I see Nirla's joined back too. So Nirla, to put you on the spot, how do you prepare for a technical interview?
Funny thing, I've actually never done a technical interview.
No, you're not the only one.
I think it's a research thing. I think research interns don't usually have to do those, because you missed it. I said I haven't either.
Okay. But Alan is actually the person who interviewed me for my first internship at IBM. So maybe you can say how I did.
I think one of the aspects there is when we get a researcher coming in to interview, it's the other model that I talked about. So they have to give a talk. If you come in for full-time, right, they have to give a talk. And we're looking to see some technical depth. But one of my favorite tricks for the full-time researcher was always take them out of their comfort zone. I need to see how they think when you're not in this isolated sandbox where you can, theorize away all the complexity. So they'll come in with a well-thought plan, and I'll say, how do you do that if the temperature is 100 degrees the whole time? Or how do you do that if you have half the budget to build it? Or you got to build it in 1 week? How do you do that, right? What do you sacrifice? So people used to always hate my interviews only because I wouldn't dig into the technical. I was digging into the mind to see how you thought. I had fun in them.
Well, and that's one of the things about being, so when I got my PhD and I came to interview with the company, I spent maybe a little bit of time talking about my research, but, Alan, to your point, I think I spent more time talking about and convincing the folks that my PhD, the process of getting the PhD was about project management and how I could take a problem, figure out the milestones, understand budget, understand, what it took to complete something, to work with a team. And that's really what they wanted to see. But to your point, you also need to make sure you understand who your audience is. I can just tell you from my perspective, when I came to interview as a PhD person, they wanted some of it, the technical, and I gave them that, but they really wanted to see, how I operated, and demonstrated flexibility in how to really apply the research. Research is great, but the application is really where the business happens and where the money is made.
Awesome, thank you all. So I'll throw it back to the audience. Are there any questions from you guys, additional questions? Oh, Angelica, how are you?
Hi, so I have another question. This is really for anybody to answer. So what would you say is your favorite thing about IBM and also ExxonMobil?
That's a very good question.
I'm happy to go first if you like.
Go ahead.
So I would say my favorite thing about IBM is the number of opportunities and the diversity of opportunities that are available for you to dig into. So I'll tie this to the first question you asked, Aisha, that I didn't get a chance to answer, what your most favorite project was, right? So I'll tell you something that you wouldn't think an IBMer would get to do, right? But it was an experience I had. At one point, I left research and helped to build the blockchain business unit. That's back when blockchain was hot. It's not as hot now, but it was like really hot then. I left and helped the general manager there build that unit. The interesting thing that happened is there was a client that was interested in building a self-sovereign identity for musician, right? Her name was Imogen Heap. So you guys may have heard of Imogen. She's a 2-time Grammy-winning artist, right? So she was interested in building this and heard that blockchain was a technology that could help her, right? And this ties into the theme of the panel, right? So I got the call. I won't talk about how I got the call, but I got the call. Hey, look into what this artist is trying to do. I actually ended up, meeting and working with Imogen. She's like world famous. And I ended up meeting and working with her and her team, like having an intimate relationship with her and her team, building out this technology for them. And she wanted to travel the world and tell musicians about how to use this technology to drive better efficiency in the music industry. And she took me with her. And so I was like on tour with her, and she would like go on stage and perform. And then she would bring me up, introduce me. Imogen was introducing me to musicians to say, hey, IBM's here, Alan Bivens from IBM. He's going to show you how this technology really works. This is really cool. This is after her performance, right? She would say, hey, this is my passion. I'm going to save musicians from all the trouble in the music industry, working with IBM. Alan, come and tell them how it works. I mean, it was a cool experience being introduced by Imogen, right? But the other aspect of that is, this is how I dress at work. This, simple business casual shirt. My wife says it looks like a picnic, tablecloth, but a button-down shirt and normal business pants, right? And so this is what I was wearing to meet with her. And I was being joined by another IBMer who is working exclusively with the music industry. And so I walk in the room and I'm the only one dressed like this, right? This is the lab that I worked in. This is how most people dress. So I dress that way, right? Following the company culture. But I'm looking for the other IBMer in this room of musicians and I can't find him. And it turns out, and this guy's an executive, right? And it turns out he was the guy in the back with a leather vest on and tattoos up both arms and had this real scruffy thing going on with the beard, right? Had long hair flowing down here, right? And when he spoke, everybody listened. He spoke their language. He looked like them. He acted like them. He said everything they understood. I didn't understand a single thing they were talking about until they got to the technology piece. I was like, oh, I'm ready. Blockchain can do this. We can do that. And then they started talking about mechanical rights and music rights and publishing rights. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore, right? And he was dressed like them. He was immersed in the client's culture, right? So when it comes down to understanding the culture of the opportunity that you have in front of you, right? It pays a lot to do that too, right? It was one of my favorite jobs, not just because I got introduced by Imogen on a regular basis when I was on tour with her, but it also showed me how diverse the jobs are in IBM and how the different cultures adapt when you start looking at the different parts of the business. right? And I still remember, I mean, me and this guy were on an elevator together, both worked for IBM, had no clue who we were.
That's so awesome.
It wasn't
That's
until
such
we
a
got in
great
front of the
story.
client that I realized, like, that's the guy. He's the executive for IBM music industry, right? So had a lot of fun with that job.
That's awesome. So Sean, would you want to share your Exxon
Yeah,
Mobil site?
That's a great story.
How do you follow that?
But I would say I would actually just echo, Alan talked about, that particular story. What came to mind is it's the people. That is what is the fun part, is the people, the different cultures, backgrounds, experiences, and I think the satisfaction of having those very diverse teams come together, and really take on and achieve some really tough results that people thought we would never be able to do. And that's one of the reputations that I have built for myself over my career. They pull me in when nobody else will take the job, or they say it can't be done. And I love it. I love that kind of challenge. I have been put in situations where a government, because I do regulatory, environmental regulatory work, a government has said, you will not get permission to go do this. And, we have negotiated for years. And they say, okay, let's call Sean. And I have been able to, and I can point to a couple of projects that, we have gotten results in months. So I love it because, and it's not just me, it is finding out what skill sets and what my team is good at and bringing that forward to bring forward the best solution or the best pathway forward. And that's the part that I love the most. It's just understanding that, recognizing that, and really just thriving. So it's definitely the people, and then getting those people to be the very best and bring about results that people said we would never get. And we proved them wrong every time.
That's awesome. I hope everybody actually gets that experience where you have something that's so challenging that someone says, no one, it can't happen. And then you're able to be the one that actually makes that happen. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Now, I know we only have a few minutes left. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of give everybody, we'll start with the interns, and we'll give everybody a chance to kind of give some words of wisdom around corporate culture for like each person gets about a minute. We'll go ahead and we'll start with Kamala. Let's give a minute on what you think. What kind of words of wisdom? What would you share in 1 minute?
Okay, my biggest tip I'll give you is that when you're working in the corporate world, you're going to be given a lot of opportunities that you probably don't have otherwise. You don't have at school or non-corporate internships, and take advantage of those. And like I said, the learning resources before, the networking, I get the unique opportunity to try and patent things at IBM. Just completely take advantage of all of that, because they're not opportunities that you'll usually get elsewhere.
There we go.
Yeah, I guess with regards to corporate culture, I think it's a real skill to be able to like go to a company and kind of figure out how they act, and like Alan said, like how should you dress in the company and things like that. So I would definitely say take the time to like learn about the company you're working at. So I know IBM is kind of like has a lot of complex like business units, and there's like this hierarchy, and there's like multiple career paths you can take. So it's kind of a lot of information. Like I've interned there. It's my 3rd time interning, and I'm still like kind of confused about the career paths and things like that. So I would say take the time to like learn about the company while you're there and ask people questions.
Awesome, that's great. So Alan?
Sure. So I would say, make sure you're leveraging the opportunity, right? Getting the most out of the opportunity. And to add to what Nerla said, there is a advertised and spoken set of rules for the company. There is an unadvertised and an unspoken set of rules for the company. Learn both, right? You learn the first by talking to people, listening to what they say, reading up on the company culture, all of that good stuff. But the second, you learn by observing folks, right? Observe the people, watch the people that are successful in your environments, in your groups, in the company, right? And ask them how they got there, right? And then find the next person that's successful and figure out how they got there. After you get about 5 or 6 or 7 of those stories, you'll start to model this equation yourself, and you'll start to understand what really matters in the company, no matter what anybody says matters, right? You'll understand how that company really works. Strive to understand how it really works, and then you'll be able to map whether that's the right place for you, right?
Awesome, great advice. Sean? Oh, are you there? Or maybe I'm mute, or maybe we lost you. I think it looks like her screen might be frozen, so we may have lost her. I'll give another second or two, and if that doesn't work, what we'll do is we'll kind of turn it back over to Kevin. Oh wait, I see you moving again. There we go.
Can you hear me okay? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Real quick, while I still have a stable connection, just define success for yourself, understand those written and unwritten rules that Alan talked about, be willing to ask questions, treat people with respect, appreciate diversity and inclusion, stand up for yourself, and at the end of the day, know that you did your best, and that
I think we lost her again.
That's part was about to come up.
Most of it. So I think I know we only have a couple of minutes left, so I'll turn it back over to Kevin to kind of close
tomorrow
out.
is another day to be successful. Fail fast, fix it, and move on.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Isha, Alan, Sean, Kamala, Nerla, thank you so much. On behalf of our board of directors, our president and CEO, on behalf of my team here at NAC, we want to thank you all for kind of kicking off our summer series of Get Set during the internship, preparing you as part of our CASE Academy. So I'm excited. This is a great topic. Again, this will be recorded or is being recorded, and it should be available on our NACME TV channel sometime later on this summer. My last quick housekeeping note is, again, please expect the survey to come out either later on today or first thing on Monday. You should receive the URL so that all students can give us feedback, and all scholars and participants, because your feedback is important to help us determine future topics and how we can improve. On that note, just a quick formal reminder, next week's topic will be hosted by our border company, Merck, and it is on personal clarity and branding. So a lot of good topics, so think about your questions that you may have in advance. And again, the workshop sessions will be from 12 p.m. Eastern time, as well as repeated again at 3 p.m. On that note, Michelle, if you like, feel free to give us some closing words. We've got about another minute left.
He always says this to me. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Lozama, President and CEO of NACME. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I learned a lot as a seasoned person. I hope you learned a lot as interns. Everyone in the Google Amly class, it's time to get back to coding and time to get back to machine learning. Thank you all for joining. You are all excellent. Keep pursuing excellence and have a great weekend. Thank you and good night.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
She's getting like Russell